Hey everybody, it is February 4th, day 35 of Bible 365. Sorry I was out for the past couple of days. I've been a little sick. But we are looking at Ruth. We're in the Old Testament now, moving into the book of Ruth. Going to take a look there for probably a couple of weeks while we're going through this book. It's a fairly short book, but a really good story of redemption that we find in the Old Testament. So let's take a look at the text. Ruth chapter 1, verses 1 through 7. In the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land, and a man of Bethlehem in Judah went to sojourn in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons. The name of the man was Elimelech, and the name of his wife Naomi, and the names of his 2 sons were Mahlon and Chilion. They were Ephrathites from Bethlehem in Judah. They went into the country of Moab and remained there. But Elimelech, the husband of Naomi, died, and she was left with her 2 sons. These took Moabite wives. The name of the one was Orpah, and the other Ruth. They lived there about 10 years, and both Mahlon and Chilion died, so that the woman was left without her 2 sons and her husband. Then she arose with her daughters-in-law to return from the country of Moab, for she had heard in the fields of Moab that the Lord had visited his people and given them food. So she set out from the place where she was with her 2 daughters-in-law, and they went on the way to return to the land of Judah. So this book of Ruth is situated here between Judges and 1st and 2nd Samuel because of its time frame, the setting that Ruth is actually set in. And it says it right there in verse 1. It says, "In the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land." So we're looking at the period of the judges when this is happening here. And we know that this isn't just a made-up story or something like that because of the people that are involved in it. Not to give away the ending, but they're very intertwined with the genealogy of Jesus. And so we're looking here at Ruth, and we're going to look just at the very beginning of the book to kind of get a picture of some of the characters, cast of characters that we see. So here in the very beginning, we're seeing this family, Elimelech and Naomi, and their 2 sons, and they initially are living in Bethlehem in Judah, in Jesus' hometown. And for some reason, during this famine, I guess they realized, hey, there's not enough resources, in Judah. We are gonna pack up our stuff and we're gonna try it elsewhere. We're gonna turn our back on the promised land, on the promises of God, and we're gonna go to a foreign country where it was not a good place. Moab was not a friendly place for believers in that day, and it's so sad because Bethlehem in Hebrew actually means house of bread. So if you're looking for some place that has food and nourishment, go to the house of bread. And it's even sadder when you look at the head of the household's name, which is Elimelech. Elimelech is, my God is king. There's no trust in God that he will provide for them. Instead, they just pack up everything and turn tail and run, and they're going to take it on themselves and go into this wilderness in Moab. I think Moab is even referred to in other places as a wash pot, making it sound as though it's kind of derided. It's treated as though it's a lesser utensil or a vessel. A place where a servant would have kept the water that they would have washed the feet of the master in, the wash pot. So Moab was not a nice place, not a nice place to go. And he takes his wife Naomi and his 2 sons Mahlon and Chilion, and they go into Moab, and things aren't great. Things aren't great in Moab. They remained there, they stayed there, they lived there. It looks like it was possibly just a sojourn to begin with, like a visit. They were going to visit, see how things were there. But then, then there in the end of verse 2, it says that they were Epaphrodites, and they went to the country of Moab and remained there. So they stayed in Moab. And while they're there, there's 3 deaths. 3 people died in Naomi's family. She went in full with her family, with her husband and 2 sons, and she left utterly empty going out. Her widowed with these other 2 females that her sons had taken, Moabite wives, while they were there. So it's sad. Elimelech passes away, but he turned his back on God. These 2 sons, Mahlon and Chilion, I have to say, if these are their actual names, which I believe in the sovereignty of God's word and the infallibility of it, but they're horrible names. Mahlon and Chilion mean sick and dying. And so I've got no fear that they actually were sick and dying. But those are horrible names. Would you name your kids sick and dying, and then go to a country during a famine and be surprised if they actually get sick and die? I don't know. Anyway, I'm not judging them for what they named their kids, but so sick and dying go to this foreign land, and they die after they've taken these Moabite wives. But they both died, so she's left without her 2 kids and her husband. And Naomi finally gets the message, gets the point. We left the house of bread to come here. Well, let's go back. Let's go back to our home country. Let's go back to our people. And so she takes her 2 daughters-in-law and kind of gathers them up and says, "Hey, we're getting out of here. We're getting out of here. Let's go and return back to Judah, where we can find some peace and find what they've heard." They started hearing in the fields that there was now food in Judah, that God had visited his people and had provided for them. And so now they're turning back around from Moab. The invitation there is to wait on God. Don't spend your time in the wilderness. Trust God. Don't look for greener pastures and fields so quickly elsewhere. We can easily find them. Heck, my wife had to get on to me tonight to get back into this habit of doing Bible 365. It had been a couple of days, and I was just like, you know what, I can do something else. I don't need to do that. But yeah, I do. I do. This is Judah. This is the promised land. And I was wanting to live in Moab. The invitation is to return to the promised land. Don't linger in your wilderness. Don't linger in Moab. It may be a spiritual famine for you. It may be a financial famine. It may be health. I don't know what it is for you. But don't turn from your God. Return to him. Return to your God and King. Trust in him. He visits his people. He visits his people. He's good. The Lord is good. Tomorrow we'll look deeper into the book of Ruth and get to see Ruth and what her statement of faith is here in this very beginning of the book as we dive into the life of these 3 ladies as they're getting ready to head back into Judah. Let's see what their plans are and what God's plans are for them. I'm looking forward to continuing on in this. It's an emotional book. It's powerful. It's a book about redemption and grace and love. It's good. It's really good. Somebody ought to make it into a movie. I really should. Maybe I will. Who knows? All right, you guys, thank you so much for watching. You can subscribe here to continue to get daily updates because I'm going to be back tomorrow. I'm not going to take a couple of days off like I did previously. You can subscribe here. You can also follow along on my Twitter account at Engaging Culture, or go to engagingculture.wordpress.com. Thank you guys. God bless. Have a great night.